Hello, Saints. Welcome to Bible Thump. And in this YouTube, I'd like to go over some dreams I've had over the years, and I'm going to tell you the very first dream I've ever had, and I'm going to give you snippets of things I saw for Canada. Part of this is, well, in part, what I'd like to do is what I remember of these dreams. The first dream I have clearly in my head. The other dreams will be snippets, as I can't recall the entirety of their contents, but I can remember certain aspects of them that will be important to Canadians. And why I'm doing this is that I'm hoping that if you're Canadian or somebody who's had dreams and visions and words that God has spoken to you about Canada, we need you to share them. It would seem that the prophetic word for Canada is very quiet at the moment. I'm not saying there hasn't been any. I don't say that certain congregations aren't speaking the prophetic message and people aren't having dreams and visions. What I'm saying is what's available is very limiting. And a lot of us are watching or seeing the prophets from around the world speak out, and we see a lot of American prophecies, and hopefully this will encourage you to, as a Canadian, to share your prophetic visions if you have them. Well, I'm going to start off with my very first prophetic dream. I was 6 years old. Well, they say what I can recall, I was 6 years old. It could have been younger, it could have been a little older. But here it goes. I was living in Ottawa. And I remember there was a church called St. Luke. And St. Luke, in English, still exists today, and you can see it from the highway. But, and when I was young, we used to live in that particular area in row houses. So, but I used to go to this church. It was a Catholic church. I didn't attend in the sense that we were part of the congregation, but there was, my mother would bring me there because after school programs, or it was preschool. And so, yeah, that's where I'd get babysat. So at that point, my only experience with church was that church. So here it goes. I was in it starts off, I'm in this church. And what happens is this church starts to fall apart. And somehow I'm outside at this point, and this big heart appears. And in this heart, there's a door. Now, I recall there was this little frog with one eye. Don't ask me why. Maybe somebody can explain that one to me. I have my thoughts, but I'm not sure. So, carrying on. So this frog brings me into this big heart. And in this, once I'm inside, I see Jesus and the 12 apostles. And at which point we carry on a conversation that I don't recall what was said. But after this conversation, I'm back outside, and this heart starts to grow and grow and grow until it bubbles over the entire planet. and at which point I'm actually seeing the planet from outside. Now, this was in the child's view, um, but it had consumed everything, and it had at the end consumed the devil itself, and everything was good again. And so that was my first dream, and I just believe that was a dream that explained to me the times that I was born in. Obviously, I didn't know that at 6 years old, um, but that that dream has always stuck out and has always bear testimony to how close we are to the return of our Lord. Now, I'm going to go over some snippets now of dreams that I had, just stuff that I can remember that pertain to Canada. Now, I had various dreams. A lot of them I end up in the basement. And the one I'm trying to recall now, I was in the basement and I knew there were tanks coming. There was war present on our land. But this dream was primarily the sensation of fear, that there was something oncoming. You know, we're looking out the window. It's like we know what's coming. We see those things, but it's very sensory dream. And then I've had some similar dreams later on. What I can recall from those dreams where there was similar, but in this point, there was a lot going on in the skies, planets and stars, and these things became amplified in my dream. But unfortunately, I don't remember quite the details, but I just remember falling stars and whatnot, and I was watching the sky a lot. And again, there was that sense of war, being prepared militarily, that there would be war in Canada. And a more recent dream, and these were dreams I had in my, those are snippets of things I can remember when I was a teenager. And then later on, I lived in Toronto for a while, and I had this one dream where I had ended up downtown, and I don't know the reasons, but what I saw was rows of cages. And in those cages were Muslim people, and they were rounding them up and putting them in those cages. And at one point at the end, I was trying to break the lock, and I think I had brought some people with me, and we were trying to rescue them because whatever their fate wasn't a good one. But I saw that happen in one of my dreams, and it was quite clear and evident what was going on. But how it began and what happens after is left to the imagination. So those are my dreams. Those are the little snippets I have for from a Canadian perspective, and hopefully you listening, you will share what God has shared with you. So God bless, and we'll see you in another YouTube video. All right, bye.